Well, hello. Welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all today? I hope that you're well. I am. I'm trying to be well. This is the third attempt at making this video today. I got a couple of new things. Some of you know that my tripod had broken, and that some people had said I was hard to hear on some things. So I got a mic that we'll see how that helps. And along with the tripod came a little Bluetooth activator so that I wouldn't have to reach up like this and look so unprofessional right when I'm turning it off, not having engineers and things. And so I've used that for two. And I've got about 8 minutes into this video twice. And then it shuts off. It shuts over and it switches from video over to photo. And I have no idea whether that is something to do with the Bluetooth or whatever. So anyway, I've shut that off and we're not going to be using that. And I'm going to try this again. I am trying to control myself and not get too mad. Anyway, welcome to all the new people. Welcome to all the old people. We continue to grow both on YouTube and on Patreon. And we appreciate that, and we appreciate your support. And for anybody who would like to support the channel, one of the best ways you can do it is go over and join us on the Patreon channel. You can pledge whatever you'd like to, $1 a month, whatever you'd like. And it helps support the channel. It helps us do more and get the word out there. And we put whatever money we bring in back into this channel. It's a way you can kind of be part of the fight. And we thank you for it. Have you been watching any of the confirmation hearings for Biden's new nominee for the Supreme Court? Probably not. It's pretty painful. But I watched a little bit of it. And, oh, boy, I did it so you wouldn't have to. Who was it? Rush that used to say that? Rush said that? I watched it so you don't have to. Well, you should be thanking me because it is painful. I'm going to go over this a little bit. We know that she's going to be confirmed because she's a black female. That's what Biden said he was going to do, completely ignoring 3/4. Well, no, more than that. I was going to say 3/4 of the population. Let's put it in real perspective because the Democrats. This is just the latest incident, and I'm going to be covering more of this here. Of how they see everything through a racial lens. And I would call it a racist lens. It's not recognizing that a person is a certain color, sex, whatever. It is making judgments on them through that lens. And when you say that you're going to select or not select someone because of their sex or their race, that's racist, and there should be no misunderstanding about that. Now we know that African Americans or blacks or however anybody prefers to refer to that segment makes up about 12% of the American population. Assuming that half of those are female, that's 6%. So with the chief idiot designation, he has completely refused to consider the qualifications of 94% of the American population. I have to assume that the bench, the judicial branch, is probably, I don't know that it's reflective of the population at large, but let's just assume that it is. Okay, so we know that she's going to be confirmed. So let's take a look at a couple of things that she said, because she's going to have a great effect on our country in the future. And then later on, at the end of this, I'm going to talk about what we should do. Okay. Did you hear? First off, who was it that was? It was Marsha Blackburn, I believe it was asking questions, and she asked a very simple question. She asked, and what is this woman's name? Her name is Brown Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Okay. She asked Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson if she could define the word woman for her. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson said that she could not because she was not a biologist. Okay. I'll put all the links of these over on the Patreon. One of the reasons for that is that when you share these with people that you know, in case they say, well, I don't believe that, then you can say, well, you'll be able to go over there, you'll be able to hit the link and send it to your friend. Okay, no, there was another question. Now, here comes up, somebody asked, who was this that asked this? I watched all this. It was painful. Let's see if it says, I won't take a lot of time here. Senator John Kennedy. Oh, I love Kennedy. He is a sharp one. He says, Judge, he says, when does life begin, in your opinion? Jackson, she said, Senator, I don't know. Okay, there we go. And then she went on and referred to illegal aliens as non-citizens. That is our new Supreme Court Justice. I know she hasn't been confirmed. She will be. There's no way in the world that she's not going to be confirmed. Because why? Because, right? Because it would be racist not to. Because there would be big problems if she weren't. And we know what this says about the state of our country today, doesn't it? Along this same line, a Washington school board passed a race-based disciplinary policy wherein Black and Hispanic students will get lesser punishments for the same infractions. Let me read about this for you for just a second. A school board in Washington, let's see where this is from. That is 100% fed up. Well, that describes most of us, right? 100%. Well, maybe not quite yet, because 100% fed up, I mean, then things happen. The problem is, I guess we're only about 97% fed up. Maybe. Do we have another 3% of us that can get fed up a little bit more? Well, I think they're trying their best. A school board in Washington State has voted to adopt race-based discipline. Now, right there, if this were directed toward any other race except white, there would be hell to pay, wouldn't there? This is unapologetically directed against white students. This means, they continue, that discipline will no longer be given to students on the basis of behavior, but rather white students will be punished more harshly in the classroom than minorities, regardless of their conduct. The Clover Park School District, a district made up of 28% white students, held a board meeting on March 14th in which they voted on a new policy for cultural discipline. The policy was passed through by a vote of 3-2. At the meeting, it was asked that someone further explain the idea of culturally responsive discipline. Please send this out to your friends. Deputy Superintendent Brian Laubach tried to explain, saying, essentially, they're referring there that you look at, this is his quote, okay? If I sound like I'm rambling, I'm just reading what he said. This is the Deputy Superintendent, the great educator. I'm going to start again. Essentially, they're referring there that you look at, are you dispersing discipline across the ethnicities, the racial groups equitably, right? Not equally, equitably, right? Okay. So that everybody gets whatever height of a, you've seen that meme to where equality is everybody standing on the same size box, so whereas equity is everybody gets to stand on a different sized box to see over the fence, right? So our ethnicities, the racial groups equitably, right? So he continues, so are you disciplining African American boys more than you're disciplining white boys, right? So are you paying attention to all of that in your data? Unreal, it says. Somebody says, last week they passed a policy for cultural discipline. It means staff will consider a student's race before punishment to ensure discipline is dispersed equitably. Let me cut to the chase because it's painful to read this claptrap. What it means is this. If, I think that I saw down here, if if I can find this very quickly. Oh, here we go. Okay. Valise. Who's Valise? Let's go find out who Valise is. He's somebody that's saying, Valise, Valise, Valise. Where are you, Valise? Where are you? Well, he's somebody having to do with the school district. All right, let's just assume that he's on the school board. And he says, Valise seemed to explain an approach to this policy in which the teachers go the extra step in their discipline to first ask the students why they broke the rule that they did. Why did you do that, Johnny? This, as Valise puts it, would help faculty to at least understand why a student might have broken a rule so that they can help guide the student. Okay, this is kind of like, continuously trying to find the motive and why somebody killed somebody else. Yeah. Okay, what if, this is Valise continuing, what if, just saying, like in my background, what if that type of rule that we broke was more acceptable in my house, right, versus your house? And, when I'm talking to them, like, hey, you know what? Actually, I thought I was okay. I thought it was fine to grab this piece of pizza before anybody else because in my house, I'm allowed to do that, right? Oh, okay. Well, first off, the guy talks like an idiot. He's on a school board. He should be able to communicate better than that. But I think we see some of the problem with some of these schools, right? These are the people that make it onto the school boards. And so what they're saying is that wherever you come from culturally, we're going to grade you on a curve. And if it wasn't wrong in your house to beat up your little sister, well, then I guess we're going to give you extra points if you beat up that girl in your class. Because, well, it wasn't wrong at your house, right? Of course, if you came from a household that raised you according to traditional values, like don't beat up your little sister, then, oh boy, then if you do something wrong at school, you get the hammer, boy. You get the hammer because you were raised right, okay? So if you were raised right, we are going to discipline you much more harshly than if somebody was not raised right. Let me know what you think about this, will you? Would you spread this around to all of your friends? Take a vote. See what they all think. Let us all know down here in the comments and spread this around. This is what's happening. This is exactly what has driven our country down into the toilet it's in now. Okay, that, well, you have to understand the behavior of these people because they just weren't taught any better. They just weren't raised right. Whose fault is that? It's the fault of an enabling society. So to an extent, we are at fault here. But by doing this, we just continue the problem. Okay, I'm going to get here in a minute about what I would suggest we need to be doing about this. 2 trans people found guilty in brutal murder of Colorado Springs COVID nurse. Now this, I read this a couple of days ago. It's in my queue of what to cover here. And this is so convoluted. I hope that you can follow it. I'll do my best to clearly. Here in front of me, I wish you could see it. You can't, but in front of me, and if I was really fancy and I had cameras around and I could show you, you would see 2 pictures of really strange-looking young people. And then you would see a picture of a nice, pleasant, middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman is the woman who was killed by these other 2 rather strange-looking people. So I'm going to read this, and hopefully I can keep it understandable. If I get lost, if I can't understand it, circle back, right? Okay, so Vin Elise Heath, I'm going to have to talk slow so that I can, a biological man who identifies as a woman and whose legal name is Cohen Heath, was found guilty of murder in court on Friday in the brutal slaying of Colorado Springs mother and nurse Bridget Kenner in April of 2020. According to police, Heath partnered with a biological woman. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay, he's a biological man who identifies as a woman. Okay. He partnered with a biological woman who identifies as a man. Emma Kenner. Name sound familiar? This guy, girl, whatever, is Kenner's child who goes by Kenny. So she was the daughter of the victim who identifies as a guy and goes by Kenny. Okay? And he partnered with this other person in murdering his mother. Okay. Excuse me. The two were romantically involved. The man identifying as a woman and the woman identifying as a man were romantically involved and were found to have stabbed 44-year-old Kenner, the mother, to death in her home. Let me see if there's any. Kenner pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in January for the matricide, killing of the mother. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Police found out from Kenner's boyfriend that her child lived with her. Okay. I think that's all we need to know. Isn't it? There's more here. As I said, this is why I read a little bit. I'm going to put the link over on Patreon. You all are going to want to see this. You need to see this. You need to read it. And you need to send this to your friends. And it's all going to lead into what I'm going to say about in a minute. Let me go to our next story of today. And here's where a lot of the problem comes from. This is from the New American. Americans are demographically ignorant. That means demographics, people, mix of people, things like that, for those of you in Raytown, Missouri. Remember how Rush used to say, for those of you in Rio Linda? I should either say in Raytown or Belton, Missouri. Americans are demographically ignorant, largely due to media malpractice. That's the truth. This isn't talked about very much because it's just not, PC. Let me ask you this. What percentage of the United States is black? Non-black Americans, this shows you the problem. Here's the problem. Non-black Americans, that would be those who are not black, guessed 39%. Black Americans say 52%. See, blacks who were interviewed think that 52% of the population of the United States is black. What's the actual figure? 12%. 12% are black, African American. I don't care what you want to call it. My black friends call it black. Okay, so I will call it black. I'm sure that in 20 years that will be, racist for me to say that. So 12%. And I'm going to go on because they make my point before I'm going to go on. Americans also suppose that homosexuals and lesbians constitute 30% of the country. They're actually just 3%. People further believe that 26% of our population has a $500,000 or plus household income. The real figure is 1%. They're going to show how the media has made people believe this unbelievably distorted view of our country and the people in it. And if you're being fed a distorted view, can you be expected to understand the reality except from people like us who will tell them? So it goes on. Published Tuesday, the survey asked respondents to estimate the percentage of America represented by 43 different demographic groups. I'm not going to read all of those, don't worry. This included some not normally evaluated, such as left-handed and pet owners. I don't care. So here we go. This is the salient, meaning important part. As YouGov reports, this was done by YouGov, When people's average perceptions of group sizes are compared to actual population estimates, an intriguing pattern emerges. Americans tend to vastly overestimate the size of minority groups. This holds for sexual minorities, including the proportion of gays and lesbians, estimate being 30%, while the truth is only 3%. Bisexuals, an estimate of 29%, the truth is only 4%. And people who are transgender, the estimate is 21%, while the truth is 0.6, less than 1%. It also applies to religious minorities, such as Muslim Americans, which everybody estimates are 27% of the American population. Well, only in St. Cloud, Minnesota. While the truth is 1%. And Jewish Americans, which they estimate as 30%, with the truth being 2%. And we find the same sorts of overestimates for racial and ethnic minorities, such as Native Americans, who they estimate as 27%. The truth is 1%. Asian Americans estimate 29%. The truth is 6%. And Black Americans, as we talked about, the estimate is 41%. That's countrywide, and we found that 52% of blacks think they are, while the truth is only 12%. A parallel pattern emerges when we look at estimates of majority groups. People tend to underestimate rather than overestimate their size relative to their actual share of the adult population. For instance, we find that people underestimate the proportion of American adults who are Christian. They think that only 58% are Christian, while the truth is 70% are. And the proportion who have at least a high school degree, the estimate is 65%, and the truth is 89%. Let's see if the problem here is I believe that they go into this. It explains they go in. It explains why estimates of population is closer to zero, as there's a demographic theory involved here. Close to zero, such as LGBT people, Muslims, and Native Americans, and populations closer to 100%, such as adults with high school degree or who own a car, are less accurate than estimates of populations that are closer to 50%. So what this says is that this distorted idea, if you watch the media, if you watch the news, you would think that half the people in the United States are black. You would think that there are a great number of people, all you have to do is watch Hallmark movies to see, or anything, to feel that a large number are homosexual. Okay, and the problem with that is that these subgroups are almost always portrayed in a positive light. Now, I'm not saying they should be portrayed in a negative light. But what I'm saying is that in these shows, the person of that minority group is usually held up to be smart, well-educated, thoughtful, always the reasonable one, the one to whom other people go for advice or from whom they learned the great lesson of the show, right? And if you want to find the person who has the problem, who is emotionally insecure, who is confused about life, who is making the wrong decisions, who needs to be led back onto the right path by our hero, who usually comes from one of these groups, it's usually the white male, is it not? I know that what I just said there is grossly unpopular amongst the people who think that these other groups are so large. But that is the problem. I'm going to talk about this more, just in case any of you want to know. I'm going to talk about this more in an upcoming video, and it'll probably get banned. But I'm going to stop here with this and tell you something. The reason that this continues to be a problem is because people won't stand up and talk about it. I'm going to have to talk fast because I've only got a couple of minutes here. Many of you know that I used to work in a hospital, and I was in the security department. And I spent a lot of time hanging around the ER because that's where the problems were. And I got to know a great number of the ER nurses and doctors. and I'll apply this more to nurses because more doctors are more of the liberal persuasion. All they care about is medicine and their hobbies. Most of them are not politically astute at all, nor are they politically involved. I know that they like to think they are, but they're not. And I got to know a lot of these nurses. Well, what I found out was the vast majority, and there were a lot of male nurses there, and not. I don't mean that in a diminishing way. These guys, a lot of them came from the military or the fire service, paramedics, and they found their way into nursing because they had a background in being medics and things, or one was a bronc rider. These guys were tough guys, and almost to a T, extremely conservative. Well, there was a time there I got to know them very well. Now I express my opinions. I don't care. I will let people know exactly how I think, but most of them would not because they didn't want to lose their jobs. One time we were in a discussion and back in the galley behind the ER, and somebody said something that was politically incorrect. I don't know, probably something horrible like white males should not be discriminated against. And everybody was looking around and talking quietly and talking almost in sign language. And I thought, and I said, look what just happened. We got 10 or 12 people in this whole area. Not everybody was involved in the conversation, but of probably 6, 7, 8 were. Others around we knew shared our beliefs, our opinions. But there was one person in there that did not. And because of that one person, everyone who held traditional values spoke in fearful whispers. This is why these problems continue. And the solution to these problems is to stop doing that. What we have to do is to stand up. You don't have to attack people. We don't have to attack people. What we have to do is express our heartfelt opinions, express our values proudly, unashamedly. And as we do that, we find that other people will come up to us and say, you know what, I feel the same way, but I was afraid to say it because I didn't know what everybody else said. Well, the ones who are on the other side, they're never fearful about expressing their opinions. And that's why this last study, that's why everybody has an exaggerated idea of their numbers and their influence. And we have to change that. I'm going to stop here. I'm just about out. That's what we have to change, and we have to change it right now. Whether Americans going to have a reversion, whether it's going to go back to a remnant, whatever it is, if the people who believe in traditional values won't stand up and express those feelings clearly and unashamedly, then our country has no hope. But if they will, if you will, if you can talk to your friends, if you can get them to, we outnumber those who are destroying our country many, many times. But we won't stand up. Most people won't. Now, not many people will, and I know a lot of people here will leave comments, and I'm looking forward to it. Leave your comments, but also spread this around. Please encourage the people that you know to express their opinions. Get out there. Make noise. Let other people know that they're not alone if they hold these opinions, and come together as a growing unified group. I'm going to leave it there because I think my camera's about to shut off. But you all have a good day. Remember that America needs a reversion or something, and it needs you to be a part of it. Leave your comments down. I look forward to reading. If you'd like to support us, go down here, hit the Patreon link, go over there and join us over there. We appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.